Hey guys and girls, it's Nathan here from the B.Invested headquarters, and today I want to talk a little bit about the importance of having the right properties in your portfolio, and the importance has never been so great as what it is today. I want to take a little bit of a walk down through memory lane and also point out the importance of the three things that have pounded so much about over the last decade about buying below market value, upside for capital growth, and a strong cash flow. Looking back at certain markets, different times, different risks, different opportunities, we are in a changing world as we enter into 2019. Going back over the course of the last decade, we've seen a lot of growth. You haven't had to be very smart to make money out of property, but it's all important to have the right strategy that underlays your portfolio so you can take your portfolio through any sort of property market. Looking at the importance of having those three keys that are met, there is some other elements that I want to talk about today. Before I quit my job 10 years ago, it's been 10 years since I exited the workforce at the age of 24, well it will be in a couple of months. The thing to remember, and I remember back in the day very clearly, is that given my income that I was earning at the time and all of my colleagues that were earning an income at the time, they could only service up to buying a property to live in as a principal place of residence around the $300,000 to $350,000 price range. And over the course of the last decade, we've seen a lot of changes out there. We saw when the GFC came that interest rates became a lot cheaper, money became a lot cheaper, and that's why I'm talking a lot, and I have been talking a lot about understanding how the monetary system works to understand how the properties are going to move in the next steps. The things that have changed with the GFC was, money became cheaper, so you could borrow more money. Banks' lending practices became more relaxed, and people could borrow more money. And this allowed for properties to increase in value. So if I was to go back and think about those wages that I was earning back at the day and my colleagues were earning today, they'd probably be able to borrow a $600,000–700,000 property that they could purchase. And it's interesting that those sort of areas which are like the heartland of Sydney, those new housing estates that are popping up for first home buyers and so on and so forth, they're all around that $700,000, that $800,000 price range. And that is by no coincidence. It's because the bank's lending ability allowed you to go to that level. Here we are at the moment with a tightening bank policies out there, liquidity that's flowing out of the markets. There is becoming risks out there for people, and it's important to remember the core fundamental three keys to investing. You're looking at it today, if you were to go out and buy a property for $800,000, how easily would it go up to $1.6 million and double? Would it be just happening overnight? Will it happen in the next 5 years? Something has to change. Either money has to become cheaper, lending has to become more relaxed, otherwise people will not be able to service for those properties. So that gives me an indication of where property markets could cap out. It's not relevant, or it's not per se that all property markets are going to end and peak out, because over the last decade, whilst we've seen some strong growth in certain markets out there, notably Sydney and Melbourne, we have seen other markets such as Queensland, other markets such as Perth, Northern Territory, Adelaide that's been on a standstill. They haven't done much. In some circumstances, they have come backwards during the last decade, and people haven't made money on these investments over in those areas. But the fundamentals of buying below market value, if you're buying something that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 30% below market value, then you're putting a buffer in place to protect yourself. And this is a market that we're entering into where people are getting scared. There's lots and lots of cool things out there to use as negotiation tactics, as far as the media, the statistics, working on fear and emotion with real estate agents and vendors that are selling in order to try and push those prices down. And as you push those prices down, build a buffer in for yourself, buying it below market value, you're minimising your risk and also putting your potential for upside into the deal. I always say that you make your money when you buy the property, not when you sell the property, because you want to make sure that that you're buying it below market value. The second one of upside for capital growth. If you're going into those markets which are $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 buying a house to speculate on potentially subdividing it and maybe adding more dwellings or whatever the case may be, there is a lot of potentials, maybes, hopefullys and one days inside of that strategy. There's a lot of markets out there which you can still buy in capital cities for $150,000, $250,000, $300,000, where there's a potential to still fit with inside of that serviceability criteria for the banks to be able to lend, and it still has a lot of upside to reach and a lot of potential growth to be had in those sort of markets. So there is a lot of markets around Australia which are still active and still show presence of being able to go up. The third one is a strong cash flow. You want to make sure that the property is not going to be bleeding you dry on a cash flow perspective every week. However, a lot of people have been out there just speculating but may not be able to see the rental return. So if you've got a property that's neutral cash flow and you can take it through the market for 10 years, I don't know too many people that sit there when they buy well-priced properties in good marketplaces that sit there and go, I'm so glad I sold that property 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ago, because the properties go up due to the fact of the monetary supply and the system that money works on. So having a strong cash flow means that you can hold your portfolio, hold your properties, and to continue to accumulate throughout any sort of marketplace. So it's very important to understand the fundamentals when you're buying the properties, why you're buying the properties, and how they're going to help you ultimately be in a position to quit your job. I do personally believe we're heading to a marketplace where there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of people with contradictory thoughts, contradictory theories, and a lot of people that really don't know what they're talking about because they've just been in this property market that's done well for the last 5 years, 10 years, and suddenly you're an investment guru, and they're starting to come unwound because their strategies were not sound enough to be able to get people to where they want to be. So it's important to make sure that as you are buying properties, that you are making money on them, that you are minimising your risk, and you are pushing for the most greatest sort of return that you can. For myself personally, throughout 2018, I spent the last 12 months making sure my portfolio is sound, because obviously my portfolio got a lot of properties in there, making sure that I was getting to their most valuable asset price by doing renovations and certain sort of things to be able to push that cash flow up and put myself in the best position to go back out onto an accumulation phase. And that is what I'm doing at present. I've just bought a couple of properties again, and I plan for 2019 to smash it by doing some development on some of my sites to generate further cash flow in order to support further acquisitions, as well as just buying more fundamental properties that fit the criteria of my investing strategy. So if you need help with anything, feel free to call my office, 1300 367 925, or send us an email at admin@binvested.com.au, and we can help you with that strategy in order to kick ass with your investment goals. So you too can be living life on your terms and telling your boss where to go. And we'll catch up soon. Have an awesome day.